Go ahead and get started. This is the Berlin Zoning Board of Appeals for special meeting for December 12th, 2024. My name is Tony Francolangia, and we've got a quorum tonight. And I'll go through Mike Simonetta on my left, Christine Mazzata on my right, and Ryan Zellick is on. Corey Whiteside with the sweater. And I think Kristen Dellerman is acting as a secretary, and she's online as well. Did I miss anybody? So we got a total of 5 people on the commission tonight, which is a full boat. And
They're seated. You'll have them seated.
the alternates? There's nobody there.
Ryan's an alternate position.
Oh, Ryan is Brian, but he's gonna be seated. Ryan Zeller. Yeah, I mentioned him. That's why I mentioned him, because he was gonna be, but he's an alternate member, but we've got a quorum. We've got a full quorum. Just give you a quick overview of how we run this meeting. Essentially, we go through old business and then go into or new business and then go into old business. Basically, there's only one application here tonight. We'll have a hearing on the application. The applicant is gonna be asked to come forward, state their application and provide background information on their application. Once that's done, there'll be a question and answer session during the first part of the meeting. And that question and answer session will be to get additional information on the application at hand. Once that is completed, we'll make a motion to close the hearing on the application, and then we go into the second half of the meeting, and basically what we do is vote on what's happened during the first part of the meeting. I'm gonna ask Ryan to step down since we have a full member quorum. Sorry, Ryan.
No problem.
Hi, Len.
He thought you were in Florida.
Okay, so to recap, we've got 5 people, Mr. Leonard Tubbs, Mike Simonetta, myself, Christine Mazzata, and Corey Whiteside, as the members of this commission tonight. Are there any questions with regards to our procedures? If not, I'll get started with the hearing. And the application is ZBA 2024-23, 76 Fuller Way, map 10-1, block 83, lot 20B. Jonathan Fife, Smart Feed Tech Incorporated, is requesting a variance to allow an exhaust chimney stack to be increased to an elevation of 85 feet besides their 40-foot tall building, when theirs is limited to 55 feet per Berlin zoning regulation 4A10AI, which allows chimneys and necessary mechanical appurtenances to exceed no more than 15 feet of the height of the building. Property is owned by 76 Fuller Way LLC and is located in a GI, General Industrial Zone. Speaking for the application. You can use the microphone, you sign in for the record, and you can use the microphone and provide background of your application. Right here.
Great. So, first, my name is Jonathan Fife. I'm the CEO of Bright Feeds. And with us today is our VP of Operations, Sergio. And we're requesting to raise our exhaust stack from 42 feet to 85 feet. Currently the limit is 55 feet. We'd like to raise it in excess of that. Obviously, I think everyone here is aware of resident concerns regarding our facility and odors at our facility. What we're doing permanently is putting in place a thermal oxidizer, which is our long-term solution. That's something that will be in February or March of this year. So what we've been trying to do is working with Deep in the Town on ways to continue to make improvements to address resident concerns until the oxidizer's in. So what we're again, the purpose of raising the stack is to increase the dispersion of what's coming out of our stack to mix more and more with clean air. So by the time it comes down, it's more concentrated and is mixed more with clean air. We hired again, this is a very common practice. This is something that the EPA recommends minimum heights for stacks. They ultimately for our building, which is 40 feet. If you look at the formula, which I sent Paul, the minimum that they would recommend is about 60 feet. And generally just higher is better. That's a pretty strong rule of thumb. And we hired just in preparation for this meeting and to make sure to be able to quantify what the impact could be of this change. We hired an air consultant, and Rajat Garg from Aqua Air Environmental Consultants. He ran what's referred to as a plume model based on US EPA Screen 3 model. And that it's publicly available. So that's a model that's online. Ultimately, based on there's different degrees of impact based on the distance, but there is no distance for which someone is negatively affected. So that's something that to us was very important and something we investigated and wanted to make sure we had an outside expert look into for us. The impact from going from about 45 feet to 85 feet is about a 50% reduction in the strength of anything traveling through the air. And so to us, that felt impactful enough to come seek approval for doing this. And again, there's no for us, this is a temporary measure. This is something that's going to come down in 3 months or so. It's an expense. It's something that we thought could make an impact. And again, we put in an odor system previously. Obviously, still more work to do. And we thought that this could be something temporarily, that could help. So there's no ulterior motive or benefit to us aside from, we think it'll help out in the community and hopefully, continue to show good faith on our part to get to a resolution. Again, this is a temporary measure and something that will come down ultimately when our thermal oxidizer is in, which is our long-term solution. So.
And you said that was February of 2025,
Yeah, February or March of 25.
the thermal oxidizer. So
Yes.
we're talking just a few months.
If there's questions or
What other alternatives have you got besides the thermal oxidizer?
well, the thermal oxidizer ultimately, and so that's there's no variance needed for the oxidizer. That won't raising the stack is temporary until the oxidizer's in. And then the stack will come down. So what we're seeking for approval here is really a 3-month or so 3-month or so measure, but it was something that looked impactful enough that was worth it. But the oxidizer really is the gold standard in odor mitigation. So it's there's nothing you can, to our knowledge, that you can implement that's more effective. And obviously we put in a prior system and based on resident feedback, didn't get the not where we need to be. And so we've we went with what was recommended to us as the most powerful solution.
What does the thermal oxidizer do?
Basically, you're running air through very high temperatures, so it just destroys any compounds going through it.
So it acts as a scrubber?
It's not a scrubber. It's kind of just burn anything going through.
Or he raised a hand.
Mr. Fife, thank you for your comments. You did say that the stack adjustment right now will be temporary, so it'll go to 85 feet and then you're going to take it down after you have the thermal oxidizer installed?
That's correct.
Sir, if I could just ask a follow-up question. I'm Jennifer Capola. I'm counsel to the board. You do not mean that the stack is going to come down altogether. You mean it's going to go back to the height that it currently is?
So there will be the stack that we have will completely come down, and there's going to be a new stack associated with the oxidizer that will be below the 55 feet.
How far below the 55 feet will it be?
I think 52. I can double check, but that was what I saw from the last engineered plan.
But I'm sorry, going back to this thermal oxidizer, how is that in relation to a scrubber? You said it uses high temperatures to,
Yeah, just any organic compounds that are traveling through the chimney go through the oxidizer,
right?
which is something that's at 1400 degrees. So it destroys any organic compounds that go through it.
Is there
So,
any particulate matter that comes out as a result of it?
No, it would completely destroy that as well.
What does it do? Turn to coal, charcoal?
It's just clean air that comes out afterwards.
I know, but there's particulates in there, and those particulates, they don't just disappear. Where do they go?
Yeah, they get captured within the oxidizer itself. So ultimately, you'd have to service it. If there were any particulate that would come from our plant, it would get kind of trapped in the oxidizer and in its chambers, and then ultimately we'd have
So-
to service the oxidizer.
And I guess, just a clarification, that's different than a scrubber?
Yeah, when I think of scrubber, I know people use different terminology.
Yeah,
But I think of like a wet scrubber where you're running things through a liquid in most cases, and so that can be a common odor mitigation tool.
right.
But ultimately, the oxidizer is more powerful and more effective.
It's more effective.
Yes.
What about electrostatic precipitators? Are they more effective than the oxidizers?
I would have to get my engineers on. I'm not who evaluated all the technologies.
Yeah, I'm, like I said, I know what you're saying, as far as a stack, but I'm just trying to think of other alternatives, and I don't know enough about it, but I think we need to present other alternatives to the board to make sure that, if they're going to rule on something, that they have a good understanding of what all the other alternatives are. And right now, all we have is a request for a smokestack.
Right. So just to be clear, the oxidizer is our permanent solution in three months or so. There aren't many solutions you can implement in a short period of time that would be plausible. So what we tried to do was something that could be impactful, but we could get in quickly so that we have a temporary measure to continue to move in the right direction before the oxidizer's in.
The 85-foot stack is going to reduce this by 50%.
Christine, can you use your microphone, please? Thank you.
Yeah, switch it on.
So if this stack increased to 85 feet, it's going to do a 50% reduction. How much reduction would the thermal oxidizer be? What would
Thermal oxidizer has a 98% guarantee. It's a warranty from the manufacturer.
How long you guys been in business for?
Uh,
Here in Berlin?
Almost 2 years.
Why wasn't this implemented on day one? I'm just curious if this is like the cure-all of everything. And I mean, if it wasn't probably Christmas time, we'd probably have more people here because it's the buzz in Berlin about the odor on a daily basis. Why are we December of '24 trying to do a smokestack and then waiting another 3 months for another solution if you guys have been, I don't understand why it's taken so long for this problem to maybe get rectified. I mean, there's no guarantees it will. I mean, there's no guarantees in anything in life, but it's just a matter of this is what you guys are going to do next. I mean, why wasn't this step one when you guys came into town? I'm just
Do you have-
curious from that point.
Do you have any paperwork or any information on this oxidizer that you're planning on putting in here? I mean, we have to, you're talking about allowing or getting a variance on for a stack, but we also have to think into the future whether that stack is gonna be a remedy for something that's actually gonna work 3 months from now.
So sorry, just in terms of,
You're telling us, you're gonna put a stack in there now. You're looking at for a variance to, so you can put a stack in there temporarily for 3 months. Okay? You want to put a thermal oxidizer in there that you're telling us is gonna take care of the problem in 3 months. If that thermal oxidizer is not gonna take care of the problem in 3 months, then what do? We know nothing about your thermal oxidizer or whether that thing is gonna work at all. As a board, I'd like to know what that thermal oxidizer does and how it works. We have nothing in any of this that tells us that, other than what you just told us.
yeah, I'm happy to follow up with more information.
In reference to that question, are there other, around the nation, are there other companies that do the same type of work that you do that have used thermal oxidizers, and to what extent have those things been effective, I guess is maybe what the question is.
Basically, yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
How
so-
effective has it been?
Yeah, so basically, we're familiar with, so most of our input is from bakeries. So breads, and things of that nature. And so ultimately, we looked at, I mean, the thermal oxidizer works in many industries. It's the most powerful solution. So from automotive, chemical, and used in food as well. One of the customers whose food we pick up from has several thermal oxidizers in. And so we were, able to get their feedback, which was helpful. But it's known as really the most powerful solution in the odor industry. It's not disputed. Any consultant or expert will tell you this is the gold standard. It doesn't mitigate, it destroys. That's how the technology works. And it's the most expensive. It's the most robust. It's the gold standard.
So my question is, again, why wasn't this something done on day 2 of being in the town of Berlin, Connecticut?
Yeah, ultimately, really in April, early 2024, we started to receive, resident concerns. It took us several months. We set up a hotline, spent several months gathering data. It's, a lot of these systems aren't off the shelf. We ultimately put in a system of August of this year. And based on continued feedback, obviously there's clearly still resident concerns. And so we went for something that was the most powerful solution available. We didn't want to, have something that, that wanted to go with the most effective solution at that point.
But again,
That wasn't your question, but
the question that came about was whether or not there are other industries, not bakeries per se, but other industries that produce the same type of animal feed that you guys produce, or you folks produce, your company does. You produce animal feed, right, from waste products? Are there other companies that provide the same type of service that use oxidizers, and what kind of results have they experienced? I know bakeries maybe use them as well, but usually when you go to a bakery, everybody kind of like smells it and goes, wow, that's pretty good.
You give me a piece of
That's not the
bread.
case in this
I feel like I
situation
want
over
a
here,
cannoli now.
from what I've been hearing and from what I've been reading. So I'm trying to find out whether or not there are other industries similar to yours that produce animal feed that use oxidizers, and what kind of results have they experienced?
Yeah, so I'm not aware of that, but there's um, oxidizers are used for things far more powerful than what we're producing. Chemical, automotive, in the most, it's the gold standard. So if you have, again, there's nothing more powerful.
Yeah.
It's effective in all different fields. If any odor consultant will say this is the most you can do, so that's they're used all over the place. It's not a niche technology. It's used in a lot of sectors, all different types of food plants, and then many other sectors as well.
I also noticed that in some of the material that I've read is that there's a coating of particulate matter on vehicles around the area. Does the oxidizer remove all of that?
So any particulate matter would get stuck within the oxidizer / destroyed, and particulate matter would not be able to get through the oxidizer.
So you would eliminate particulate matter 100%?
Yes.
I'd want to see some proof of that. I definitely want to see some proof of that before when you make a statement like that in front of this board.
Well, he said 98% effective is what the manufacturer says in their literature.
I haven't seen the literature, so I'm going by what he's telling us.
Have you had any guidance from DEP in regards to stack, everything else that we've been talking about? We sit here as a commission and we look at paperwork and we have to read and we have to do the research and we have to make sure by, all standards, the documentation we're given is accurate, is for what the state is saying. Are they backing that up? Do we have a representative from the state here listen, we're here because we want business to continue in Berlin. We're not here to take down any businesses. We want everyone to succeed, but we also want to protect our town, and the residents. And if there's complaints, we want to address that. But at the same time, we also want to make sure everyone's safe in regard to it. I was just an Ocean State job lot. Maybe I have a big Italian nose, but I couldn't be outside for more than a half a second from it on Tuesday. So to me, it's like, I think this is a very, very important issue, and we just want to make sure that it's taken care of one way or another. And documentation, feedback, and no offense to you, but there should be, some more information about it to back up these claims.
There is a document from the EPA. There's a guideline for stack height. I can share that here.
I have one right here too.
Have that? They have a formula that they use.
Oh, yes, you will.
Oh, yeah. It'd be a long night.
Very well could be.
So the formula for the height of the stack is the height of the building times 1.5. Is that correct? Yeah. There's also some case study on thermal oxidizers.
So this is Attorney Capola again, for the record. So to prepare for your meeting, because I was curious about the operation of the oxidizer myself, I did find some case studies online from corporations that actually have fabricated them and put them to use in animal rendering. So exactly what we're talking about here in other areas of the country. One was Tan Corporation. I don't know who is doing the fabrication for your oxidizer. Another was Catalytic Products International. The case studies do talk about the fact that The use of the thermal oxidizer is the most widely accepted control technology that's available to control odors, VOC emissions, and ammonia from the animal feed manufacturing processes. So there is information out there. I did not participate. I know that there were hearings with regard to this issue, public comment received at the town council level. Attorney D'Onofrio covers those meetings. So I was not physically present with regard. I know that there were some deep employees who were present, some deep staff that were present there. But again, I'm just offering that to you, that there is information out there that supports the use of this particular mechanism that, and my understanding is it was fabricated specifically for your business. That's correct, right?
Yeah, it's it's a widespread technology, but for any operation, they have to come in and engineer it for your facility.
And that's the reason why it's taken so long for you guys to get it until next year?
Yeah, the common timeline for an oxidizer is can be 8-10 months. We've done everything we can to keep it, to shorten that, expedite fees, whatever we could. So we've been working daily on making sure that it comes as quickly as possible.
Mr. Pipe, do you have a need to have an extended period? I guess before I get to my question, maybe for our own attorney for the board, on the temporary variance question, but I mean, you said that if the thermal oxidizer comes in, that'll be the final solution and you'll remove the stack that you're asking us to approve as a variance. What would be the longest that you would want as a window to have that stack up?
I would say, if we expect it to be installed February, March of next year, that would be the window. We would not need a long-term variance. Again, this is just a short-term, a short-term measure. Yeah, in February, March next year.
Maybe, I think.
Don't address
Yeah,
they're addressed later. They'll have
yeah,
a
the
few
questions
assessments
are later.
He
Can
was
I make a
wondering if there
point?
were delays, if there were any delays, would you need,
Yeah, I mean,
If-
our goal would be this would be in until the oxidizer's in. So whatever the board would think would make sense. Again, we have no ulterior motive. It's something anytime you call and said, oh, we're getting it's bad, we would take it down. This is a cost. This is not there's no motive except for we think this improves the situation. This is something that again, there's literature about online. We hired an expert just to ensure there weren't certain areas that could be negatively impacted. And so, DEP has said there's no downside. So it's a pretty, again, no upside. And if there was something we wouldn't need something long-term and would be happy to take it down if someone, if the town called us and wanted us to take it down.
But you did say that what there's a new stack that goes along with this custom engineered unit, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so when it is installed, it will necessarily remove the variant stack and put up a compliant stack.
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's just one issue, that there is no temporary variance. You just have to remember that.
But yeah, that's why I said I couched it in my next question was for the staff or for the attorney about whether that even is a thing.
Variances run with the land in perpetuity.
So in this circumstance, this, again, Jennifer Capola for the record, Mr. Whiteside. For this circumstance, first of all, yes, absolutely, the law does not support the issuance of temporary variances because, as all of you are well versed in, it's a determination of there being an exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship. In this instance, it's arising from a use that's permitted. And that's something that I think is important to keep in mind. I understand the concerns expressed about needing perhaps more information about that process of what the oxidizer is going to support. But really what you're looking at here is the stack itself. And you do have some language in this section, an issue that you're varying. And again, that section 4, A10, A1. The language says the height limitations of these regulations shall be modified as follows. It's entitled, first of all, height exceptions. It says the maximum building height limitation shall not apply to chimneys, antennas as an accessory to the principal use. Okay, so we've got that concept of it being accessory to a principal use, so that's important. Ventilators, skylights, water tanks, and necessary mechanical appurtenances. So another component, a necessary appurtenance, okay? And you do have some information in the record from the guidelines that have been supplied that indicate that this is a necessary appurtenance for this type of use. Usually carried above the roof level, provided that, and then it indicates obviously in 1, they do not extend more than 15 feet above the level of the roof on which they are located. And then 2, the total area covered by such features does not exceed 10% of the area of the roof upon which they are located. So you're focused on 1 there. But in the staff report, we gave you some language, and I just want to talk about that just briefly before you ask any more questions or obviously move on to the public comment. At the end, staff did indicate to you that the requested variance may meet the criteria for approval under section 15A2 of the zoning regulations based off these findings. That's your variance section. Exceptional difficulty exists securing the interests of public health and welfare. So that's directly from your regs. Right? Ensuring public interest in public health and welfare, safety is also in the reg itself. Created by imposing the zoning regulation limitations on section 410A1 upon the height of the chimney at issue, which is a necessary appurtenance, accessory to the principal use as contemplated by the regulation. The height limitations may conflict with the recommendations of the state permitting agencies for operating a facility the size and type involved. And again, you have information regarding the stack that supports that. It seems to be the recommendation that because of the type of facility, because of the size of the facility, that the permitting agency is recommending this stack height, including the most effective means of managing air and or odor emissions. And this is very important and kind of goes back to what I said initially. The issue is that this is very unique from what you typically see, which are, exceptional difficulties and hardships that are coming from the land itself, right? But this is a situation where you've got a permitted use that is a variance is being sought to deal with an issue that's not a self-created issue. It's not an issue that was actually created by I guess you're a tenant, right? Created by the tenant themselves. And remember, that's something you're always looking at. Is it a personal hardship arising from, financial reasons or some sort of a personal interest? That's not really what you have here, because the planner's here, and you could ask her questions about the legality of the use under the zoning regulations, but you've got a use here that's a permitted use, and they have the necessary permits by law that have been issued by the state agency with authority and so forth. So, I get that it's difficult, but that's critical. That piece of it is that it's not something that's self-imposed, self-created too. So again, just to get in the mindset of, what you're supposed to be looking at, because, we're talking about a lot of different things, but from the standpoint of what you're evaluating as a board, again, unusual, unique situation, but these are the factors I think that you're looking at. And, Paul says at the end, as the use itself is permitted by the zoning regulations within the general industrial zones, and the subject the GI zone happens to be located in close proximity to both commercial and residential uses. So just want to focus you on that as we move on. Thank you.
So I just have to say this. If all this information that we're going through, talking about the EPA standards, you know, the oxidizer and everything, can I just ask, why wasn't this done at day one? If all these things are factual and this would have been, that's 100%, this one sends it to East Hartford. Why wouldn't it have been done? No offense, East Hartford. Why wouldn't it have been done day one or two, as opposed to how many years you guys have been in business and special city council meeting with the mayor and the councilman and, you know, the petitions online? I'm like, I don't understand. If all this stuff is supposed to be the cure-all, which I know that's probably not the right word, you know, in front of an attorney, but why wasn't this done day one or day two? Why are we 2 weeks before Christmas trying to figure out something that we're supposed to do, you know, to get the chimney stacks up high, and then in 3 months they're going to be taken down because we got something else in? I would just ask that stupid question of why wasn't this done a very long time ago when you guys arrived? Like, if we have all these facts and the EPA says this and they say that, I mean, that's just, you know, my stupid question for the night right now.
Yeah, I'd say generally just referring to the oxidizer, it's the most powerful solution. We're not a big business. It's $1 million plus investment. And so,
Yeah.
you know, early this year when we set up a hotline to understand the issue and address it, we went with an odor solution that we thought you know would be very effective. And these things take time. They're custom engineered, manufactured. They're not something that comes right away. So we put in place. We ordered a system mid-year. Came this past summer. We gathered data. We worked with the manufacturer, and our goal was on a permanent solution. Ultimately, we decided, based on resident feedback, we needed to do more. And so we, at that point, looked at the thermal oxidizer, and it's, again, it's something that takes time to manufacture. It's custom built. It's not something on the shelf. And so, it's the most powerful. It also has, a long lead time because of just the nature of the type of investment and structure it is. So we have been working with the town and the state proactively to try to say, what are some other things that we can do, raising the stack. We tried to, our goal is a more permanent odor removal strategy. And so that's where our focus has been. The stack is not that. The stack is something that improves the situation. And so we started to, based on the lead time of the oxidizer, we started to say, what are the things that, are there measures we can take in the interim to help improve the situation?
Just have a question to clarify, but I believe Board Member Simonetta, your question was in reference to the stack, right? Not the oxidizer? Why wasn't the stack done from the start at that height?
Well, both,
Oh, both, okay.
especially going off the EPA guidelines.
Mhm. You have a response or answer for that?
No, same thing. We were focused on odor removal. This isn't that. It's not, it's not going to remove things, remove, any odors, but it's something that, again, according to models, can make a 50% improvement. So we thought as an, interim measure that would be helpful.
So, sir, if you could just step back, though, again, Attorney Capola for the record. In answer to the board's question with regard to that, is it that you just didn't know because this is your only business of this nature? Is that true? Is it that you just didn't know that there was going to be an odor, what the town is experiencing at this point? Is that just the fact?
That's right.
How many other businesses like this are around the country? And do you know of any?
There are all sorts of businesses that handle, different forms of food waste.
No, like yours, that produce the food, the dog, whatever food you're doing.
Yeah, there are some facilities that process just breads. There are renderers out there that take raw meats. There's places that focus on fish. Uh, all sorts of businesses,
And what do you process?
mostly baked goods.
And what do you turn them into?
Animal feed.
Kind of animal?
Right now in this region, it's mostly for dairy because that's the predominant livestock.
I'm assuming out west, there's probably a lot more of this and a lot more examples. And
Well, what I was getting at is, or what I was trying to get at is, they're probably not in a quite populated or dense area as they are where we are right now.
So the two sites that I looked at, one was Minnesota, where there's an oxidizer installed, and then the other ones are down south. The study that's from Catalytic Products is from the oxidizers down south.
Are you aware of the facility in Massachusetts that was closed down that was similar to what you guys do? Because there was a huge problem in the town with the smell and everything similar to what, the residents are going through in here. Are you familiar with that situation as well?
Yes.
Okay. Did they not do these things that you're planning on doing? Or was it, I'm curious, without digging deep into that rabbit hole of what they went through, how come they shut down?
Well, every business is different. It's hard to address.
Of course.
There are reports of taking lobster shells sitting outside in the summer. So different, different inputs, different process. So it's hard to address, but I do know they do not have a thermal oxidizer.
Okay.
And then when this was first presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, when it first opened up, what kind of how was it presented in terms of, was it presented at, was there any, I guess, any ramifications to health or safety that were addressed when it was first presented at the startup?
I don't think anybody knew about it. Or even knew what to ask.
They didn't know about it at all.
Nobody around here has seen anything like this.
No. I thought maybe they would have pros and cons, or, have some kind of a additional information once it's on startup. But I guess if nobody knew about it, then
I'm just assuming that. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know when it went, even when it went through, to be honest with you.
okay. Anybody have any more questions of Mr.?
I think we've kind of,
Question ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, yeah, right now we'll have comments in favor and comments in opposition to the application. Any comments in favor of the application? Comments in opposition to the application? Okay, if you have comments, you're welcome to come up and
This is Maureen. Can I comment from the Planning and Zoning Commission decision and minutes?
oh, sure, yeah.
Yes,
that's fine.
please.
Yeah, please do that.
I think that would be Should be helpful.
Yeah, that was my
So-
thought.
It was approved in 2021
Right.
by the Planning and Zoning Commission as an allowed use in the zone manufacturer. The testimony during the meeting included, and this is taken from the minutes, the applicant, which was their engineer, stated the application meets and exceeds all zoning requirements, and talked more about the site improvements. It's July 15th, 2021. Mr. Fife represented that there were no other competitors in the business. Smart Food Tech has been in partnership with professors from Boston College and WPI, and it is their mission to make the process as energy efficient as possible. They are looking to develop technology to further improve the process and make the business more efficient and environmentally friendly. And from my own experience, I do recall it being a kind of a work in progress. They were learning about the manufacturing and what all would result from the newer technology. Chairman Veely asked a question about potential for objectionable odors, and Mr. Fife replied, "It is not different than any other food processing operations." And then they continued conversation about dumpsters and some other areas where the smell would be, that would used to asking questions about smell. But it was about the newer technology. I think that was a key component.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, if you're gonna make some comments, you just use the podium and sign in, state your name.
Ryan Malloy, 84 Juniper Lane. Sign real quick. So for those that, I think everybody knows me by now, indirectly or directly, I'm one of the leads for the citizen advocacy group against Bright Feeds. And I say against, we don't want them to shut down. We want them to fix their problems. And many of the questions you guys asked are the questions that we've asked and we've continued to ask, right? It was just stated in that testimony that they're new, right? This is new technology, yet we just said that there's numerous companies throughout the country that are already doing this. So what is it, right? That doesn't make any sense. So I just jotted down a few things. I'm gonna keep to the facts, but the reality is, in the lore, I forget your name, but I think there's some key pieces that are missing there. This company, and it came out in the last meeting, was fast-tracked on permits by the state. With that, DEP permitted them on the intake, but not the exhaust, right? So when we say that this is an unforeseen, I forget how eloquently it was worded there, essentially the victim almost is how it's being played. That's not the case. The permit was not put in place for the exhaust stack to be measured. It still is not in place. And that's something we challenged the DEP in the last meeting to go back and revisit, right? How a company that was approved to burn 450 tons a day of not baked goods, garbage. We need to call a spade a spade. It's garbage. It's rotten food. This is the stuff that's in the back of Stop and Shop, wherever. And I know some things come just off the assembly line. They're not right, this and that. It's coming on a truck on a 95-degree day sometimes. Right? It doesn't take long for that to saturate and to rot, right? So from my end, that the critical piece that's missing there, man. Right? How we can say this is unforeseen when they have not been required to have the appropriate testing on the exhaust stick. Had that permit been required, I don't think we're here right now. Right? We're not, because these things are already put in place. It was fast tracked because the state needed a solution to the waste problem. And what I've said from day one, and you know, you saw me in the town office numerous times, I don't blame anybody. All I've said is let's forget about that. Mistakes were made. But why I'm here tonight is to not repeat those mistakes, right? It would be prudent of me to come to this meeting and make sure that we've done everything we could to avoid those mistakes. So I've also done my own study. I'm not an expert, but I did a lot of research on these plumes, right? And while I appreciate your expert is saying 50% reduction, I think the town, and I've challenged Mark on this as well, should have a project manager assigned to this and should have our own correlating studies done. I know that's going to take taxpayer dollars, but at this point, this company has lost credibility. No offense to you. If you earn it back, I'll hug you, literally. But for now, it's lost, right? And if this was to be approved, I think we need to put immediate measures in place that is a fallback, right? In my industry, it's called a backout plan, right? Something unforeseen happened. Stuff happens. Like I said before, I wasn't blaming anybody, but what can the town do as a recourse, right? Maybe it's if this was approved and it deems to be an issue, you have 3 days to remediate the problem, or you cease to operate until it's remediated, right? We need to start incentivizing this company to do the right thing. Because to your question, why it wasn't done in the beginning, that capital excuse, I'm so tired of hearing it, right? I can't say that about my business. I can't say I can't mow your yard properly because I didn't have the money, right? I can't say I didn't wear my PPE today because I couldn't afford it. No, you just do what you do. It's the right thing to do. To Mr. Simonetta on the timeline, right? I think it came up twice around why wasn't this done originally, right? And then it came up where we agreed, all of us, that there are industries that are already doing this, including this industry, right? So to hear that it took 7 months, where I struggle with up front is in every industry, you're going to cross-analyze with others to be most efficient, right? To operate the right way, right? If you own a repair shop, a mechanic repair shop, you're going to go make sure that the ASC certifications, your Master Tech, everybody is in line with industry standards, right? You might even audit that. You might have in my industry, Price Waterhouse come in and audit you to make sure you're doing the right thing. And that's where every step of the way, in my opinion, it's lost credibility because there are so many it's not one hop that was missed, it's about 10, right? And every step of the way allows, because of the way it's permitted, now we have to have the Attorney General involved because they're the only ones with the clout to fix it. So my only concession to you all is before something's approved, I ask the town to allocate funds to do independent studies, even for the thermal oxidizer, because one piece that was missed on that is thermal oxidizers are very efficient, but come with a very loud exhaust system. So even though it has curbed a lot of smell pollution with these companies, it presents a new problem, which is already a problem for us in the sound. So again, I would ask that these things are studied. The exhaust piece was a big thing, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Thermal oxidizer, I think you're being very generous. I met with numerous experts in this industry. I have a lot of people willing to help me on this at this point. I think 3 months is generous. I hope it happens, right? But to come in here and say you're going to hit that date, you haven't hit a date yet, right? You haven't. And the sound to me is a big one, right? That's one that I think goes on deaf ears a little bit, no pun intended.
Good.
Because it's throttled up and it's throttled down, and I cannot put my thumb on it. But when it's ramped up, it literally drives you mad. So I don't want to miss that piece of it. I feel like the town should have some sort of case study before anything is approved with this company to make sure that they're going to fall in line with the standards, because I know for a fact that if that exhaust permit was required, current setup based on the CFM blowing through would have been denied. You would never have situations where cars are having soot on them, right? Mine included, right? It just wouldn't happen, right? So it's kind of like, and respectfully, it's amateur hour, right? Every step of the way, because this company got the permit from the state and the town, and I don't say that as a negative thing. You guys didn't know what you don't know. But once they're locked into those permits, it's like you're held hostage. You can't do anything, right? And the state, by fast tracking them, made the problem perpetuate. And then the state gave them money on top of it. So again, I'll leave it there. But from my end, if this town is going to approve this, I would like the town to do a study, because I don't believe they have credibility. And I would like a backup plan, because they don't have credibility that they can stand by their word. So if it fails, which numerous things have, we need a way to back out of it, right? Things happen, right? We learned that when we're kids, right? I'm not perfect. I learn the most from my mistakes, but I need to be a man about it, admit it, and make the right corrections. 2 years down the line, making these corrections, acting like we didn't know industry standard. Come on, dude. Like, no way. And I hate to say dude at a town meeting, but that's my piece.
Mr. Murillo, stay tight.
Twice.
Mr. Miller, Brian, is it your contention that we should not act at all in favor of a longer term solution, which would involve the town council and the mayor and appropriations to that effect?
It's
Like,
my
basically to withhold our decision on the application as a cudgel to the company and the town.
Yeah, that's a very broad question. Let me try to carve that out. It's my contention that I don't think this exhaust stack being raised, and I'm going to break this out a little bit, is going to have the impact that they think it's going to have based on the CFMs that run through and the downdraft that you get. And I respect your person's study. When that wind's billowing, right, it's still going to have a downdraft, right? So what I think is actually going to happen, and I'm no expert, is I think it's going to go further, right? So I might actually have some relief, but the people in South Kensington might have a problem that they didn't have before.
Yeah, I know.
So that is my primary concern. I came here, I think this might help me, and I came here, right? How crazy is that? Because I don't want anybody else in this town to go through what we've gone through. It wouldn't be fair to them. So I get it. It might be a 50% reduction, but with how gross it is quantitatively, that's too much. 50% is too much at a farther distance. To answer your other part of the question, the thermal oxidizer, no, all I ask is that the town have a correlating case study on this, that we don't, since they don't have an exhaust permit, we don't take everything that they say at face value. That's the point I'm making, because there's no governing body to force that governance aside from what they're telling us. We have asked from day one for intake data, exhaust data, sound data. Got nothing. Nothing. Right? We were told numerous times, you said it standing here. I'll give you that data. Don't have it. Right? So my point is, in my line of work, primary line of work is IT. Everything I say is give me the data. Where's the data? I need the data to back the decision. I don't want your feelings. Obviously, we're emotional because this impacts our lives, but I want the data. And if the data can back the solution, we would all feel better about it. But at this point, we've seen no data to date. They're running a 450-ton burn operation a day without an exhaust permit, right? The health department says it's healthy. How can they judge it if they don't have an exhaust permit, right? How does that even make sense? You have people saying their skin's burning, their eyes are burning, their cars are being coated. There's no governing body to check that, but we should just be okay because they said, yeah, it's okay. Right? It literally lacks any logic, any common sense. And all I've asked from day one is to just have a structured plan. So again, to answer your question, if we do it, fine, but it needs to align to data. The town needs to have correlating data, correlating studies. That's my 2 cents because they've lost their credibility. That's the only point. If you win it back, John, I can tell deep down, you're a nice guy. I know that. We had long conversations, but you lost that credibility. Until it's earned back, we need to protect ourselves, we need to protect our kids.
Well, Ryan, the reason I ask is that, I don't think that the Zoning Board of Appeals has the capability to bind any other board. I mean, other than to have a stipulation that it must be approved or something else, by like the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yep.
I just don't know if we can, if we have any options to say, okay, well, this is an approved subject to the mayor, approving something like a project manager.
No, understood. So I guess to answer that question direct, what I would say is if I were the town, if I were in your shoes, sympathizing to that point, I would stipulate that nothing could be approved for this company until there's a correlating town case study. I get it. I get what you're saying. You guys can't make that call, right? But you can make a call that you don't have enough data. You can't shake your head, man, respectfully. And here's why. Because how can they just come and give their data, yet we're supposed to just nod our head? We're not experts. You guys aren't experts in this.
Awesome.
So again, this is the Zoning Board of Appeals. They have an application for a variance before them. The authority comes from state statute. It's articulated in section 15 of the zoning regulations. And look, this is not a statement at all to the common sense approach that you may be advocating for.
I'm
Okay.
asking for a data driven
This is about in terms of what legal authority they have as far as acting on the application that's before them. They need to act on this application and they need to do it in compliance with what their authority is. They can't order studies be done. They can't order another agency of the town to do anything.
Okay, fair enough. So if we go to
They've
the.
got to
black-
act on the application.
Fair enough. So if we go to black and white, then I'm gonna challenge you on what you read. Excuse me. I had to listen to that. And my rebuttal to what you said is unknowing, right? Based on the legislation that's written there, right? I think that you're skewing the verbiage in their favor, right? Because they knew what they're doing. At the end of the day, they're the ones burning it. So to act like they didn't know, and this is an unforeseen circumstance, so they just by default unknowingly have to raise the stack. That's like saying the murderer isn't guilty because they didn't know they were going to murder. No, they still did it. Right? So I agree with you. I just firmly disagree with how you read that verbiage. And we don't have to argue semantics. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I just want to clarify because I want you to understand what I read. So a staff did a report,
Mhm.
and at the end of the report, he gives some guidance. Again, because this is such a unique situation as far as the exercise of their authority, he gave some guidance for their consideration if they were inclined to approve the application. That's all it was. I wasn't reading from anything that is case law or language, whether by statute or regulation, that favors the applicant at all.
Yeah, but that's how it
That
came
was,
across
that,
respectfully. This
that,
is a
well,
public meeting.
I understand, but that was, again, it was more for the digestion of the board, again, who is trained. They do go through training of how to serve on this board and to exercise their authority. So I understand. I just want to make that clear to you. That's what I was doing to focus them on the issues that they need to focus on. And that language was in part, as I indicated, was based on the regulation.
No, I understand.
That the applicant is looking to vary. So the accessory use, accessory to the principal use, the
Yes.
necessary mechanical appurtenance language, the ensuring public health again, and to the benefit of the public, ensuring the public health and the welfare. Because one of the things that they're required to do by statute is they have to give reasons for their action, whether they deny it or they approve it.
Understand.
So that's what I was
This has been
doing.
eye-opening. These responses have been eye-opening
Of
to
course.
respond to that, and we can agree to disagree. That's fair. My response to that is that's not how it came across. And it almost came across like the town could put themselves in a poor situation had they not improved it. That's how it came across to at least me listening in the audience, because they worded it in a way to try to help citizen health. And while I understand what you're saying, I personally feel like they've lost credibility. It doesn't change the fact that you're saying there's black and white. You can't necessarily go by that. But what I'm saying is that's how I interpreted what you stated. I get that can put the town in a precarious spot, but us citizens, we've been in a precarious spot for a long time. Okay, so
It's not about putting the town in, and I don't, this really isn't appropriate for me to have a back and forth, but I've tried to make a hallmark of my practice, making sure people understand what we're doing, because I know that the legal process is very confusing. But again, to the board, I mean, you could find the opposite of what Paul suggested to you, should you be,
no, I see,
you're the
ma'am, I
folks-
see your point. I do see your point.
just because I'm trying to give them some guidance. They're the who vote. Staff and I don't vote. We don't have a vote. We offer guidance. They can find the opposite of what Paul put in his status report. They can find that it was self-created, that it was self-imposed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Keep in
clarifying.
mind- Yeah, so they can absolutely do that. It was just, again, give them guidance.
Fair enough. So I guess I'll close with, and just to keep it sweet, short and sweet, thank you for clarifying it. I stand by that. That's not at all how it came across, but thank you for clarifying it. The exhaust permit, if this is approved, I think the town needs to have a way to be able to back out. Now, I don't know if that's possible based on what was just stated there. However, I think we've gone down this road a few times with this company. And if it fails, then the only recourse for the citizens is with the Attorney General, the DEP, and the Health Department. And it's been like this, right? It's been 14 months since I started, 15 months, 16 months now, right? Of an issue. And lastly, I'll close with, John, regardless of when the reports started coming in, if you have nostrils, you smell it, right? So even though they started coming in 2 Septembers ago from me, this issue was probably happening even before then. So to kind of not admonish yourself from, well, it was when the reports and did this, and while that's appreciated, again, there needs to be some integrity within the operations itself, right? If you just step outside your building, if you just go to job lot, it's not good. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was kind of high.
Thank you. Thank you. Please come on up.
Sign in. My name is Lori Budney. I'm on Weathersfield Road in Berlin. And I didn't know what I was smelling for a long time. Then I started hearing about it from some other people in town. And then I realized, you know, when I go out to walk the dog or whatever, I can smell it. What I'm learning here this evening is interesting because they're asking for a variance, and yet the town attorney is clarifying that that variance, once it is accepted, is like a permanent approval. Spitting. And it's like a permanent approval. And so I'm a business owner, and I'm thinking, I know that there's a lot of expense in mitigating fumes and noise and all that stuff. But I'm also thinking that once I get that smokestack or whatever it's called, that if my thermal oxidizer jams or misbehaves in some way, nobody's going to know about it, and I can use the smokestack because it's there and it's always going to be there. And it also sets a precedent for other businesses in town. Not that I would want one for mine, but now they're going to say, well, they've got one. So you got to come up with a pretty good reason why another business can't have it. So I think it's kind of like covering their butt, because if I was them, I'd be thinking, on the one hand, why do I need this for lousy 3 months? 3 months, nobody's been complaining. I mean, nothing's happening right now. Everything is good for the next 3 months or 4 months, whatever, until the thermal oxidizer comes in. However, this way I have this backup smokestack that nobody's ever going to really know what I'm using, thermal oxidizer or the other thing. So I kind of am suspicious of the reasoning for the lousy 3 months of the smokestack and going through all this rigmarole. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Someone online with a hand up as well.
Oh. Is that Corey?
My name is Mary Catherine, LaRose. I can't write and talk at the same time, sorry. Oh, okay, and I have to sign it too, okay. I have been at other meetings, at the town council, special meetings. And so this issue's not obviously new to me. And I would urge the zoning board of appeals to deny this request for a variance, and a couple reasons why. First of all, I feel like the last meeting we had, which was a town, you know, the residents were invited for an informational meeting. Brightfeeds didn't show up. The meeting before, they did show up, and then the last meeting they didn't show up. Not one person from their company. So I don't really think that they are trying to be good neighbors. This issue's gone on a very long time, and the residents that suffer from it have suffered greatly. smell and noise, which no one is talking about tonight. So, you know, we're talking about maybe possibly 50% improvement for 3 months with a big tall or exhaust stack. And then they're going to solve the smell problem miraculously with this oxidizer if it comes in March or April or whenever it is, because it's questionable when it will arrive and be operational. So again, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a very trusting person, but why would this company want to put the expense into a big, tall exhaust stack for 3 months or 4 months even, when they haven't done anything for the 13, 14, 15 months that they've been in existence in the town? I have a question as to, they have said in every meeting I've been at that it's mostly bakery products that they are cooking. But they don't say what the other is. And I don't have a percentage. I like numbers. So like, what percentage of the stuff that they get in these giant trucks is bakery products? What percentage is other? I'd love to know, because it certainly doesn't smell like going by the bakery section at Stop and Shop when they're baking cakes. It just doesn't smell like that. So the other thing is, I'm questioning, I don't understand the height of the stack that they're asking for, because the one that they have now is 15 feet above the height of the building. So the building's 40, and then it's 15 feet higher, so it's 55. That would be the limit. They don't have a 55 stack now, but that would be the limit right now. But then they're talking about an 85-foot stack. Is that above the 40? Is it going to be 40 plus 85, or does that mean it would be 45 feet above the 40-foot building? That's what they're asking for? So 85 total. Okay, okay. And then it just sounds very illogical to me that they're going to take it down, because we know there's no such thing as a temporary variance. You've explained that tonight. So why would they go through the expense of taking it down? It would just stay there. And then they would put another stack, they say, for the new oxidizer. It wouldn't be using the 85-foot stack. It would have to be a new one. I just don't get it. And again, like Lori Budney mentioned, when you approve a variance like this, it just opens the door for other companies to want you to do the same thing. Last thing I'm going to say, I don't understand why we would want to be doing this company any favors. And I kind of think of a variance like a favor. They are probably in the wrong place. Maybe they should be out in Minnesota or wherever, but they're in a congested area. They've caused a lot of pain and anguish to neighborhoods around them. And that's not maybe their fault, but they're in the wrong place. And I just don't think we should be doing them any favors. Let them get their oxidizer. Poor Ryan and other neighbors have suffered this through the summer months with trying to keep windows open, forget it, close everything up. And then there's the noise. You cannot forget the noise that is driving them crazy. They will not shut down at night. They refuse to shut down that night shift. So they are constantly, even with windows closed, my understanding, I don't live there myself. My understanding is they hear it. Ryan mentions how he can't sleep in the bedroom that is closest to this property. He has to go to the opposite side of his house to get any rest at all. So this isn't solving a lot of the problems. I do believe just this business is in the wrong place. The zoning board did what they do. They looked at the property and who they were, and they didn't know what the company was going to emit. And it looked like a business that would fit. It doesn't fit. So please do not approve this variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have someone online, Peter
Oh.
Rabozo.
Yep. Hello, good evening. My name is Peter Zarabozo. I live at 158 Elwood Road. Just want to speak in opposition to the proposed variance. My concern, or really, I have a couple questions as well. In terms of extending the stack for the benefit of 2.5 months for a possible 50% reduction, in my opinion, does not outweigh the potential risk of keeping or of allowing that to exist in perpetuity with the land moving into the future. And that temporary fix is only temporary. We do not know if it's effective. We do not know if that smokestack will only disperse a smell or weaker odor out further into the community versus those impacted here today and those closer in proximity to the building itself. If I want to phrase this gingerly, but if it's only going to be another 2.5 months for this institution to come up with a more permanent fix, I don't see why we would risk allowing a 85-foot smokestack to exist in perpetuity on that property if the solution is potentially right on the horizon. I just do not think it is a wise decision for the town, given the minimal and questionable benefit of the proposal. Secondly, that timeframe may be even smaller because we don't know how long it will take to put the smokestack up. And thirdly, I guess my question to the commission and also to Mr. Fife is, my understanding listening to him speak is that with that new thermal oxidizer that will come in March, the smokestack will be 55 feet is my understanding. I guess my question is, why not just commit the capital to extending that potential smokestack to 75 or 80 feet to also have the benefit of the thermal oxidizer and the potential benefit of a higher smokestack and further air dilution, et cetera. That's all I have. Thank you for your time and thank you for volunteering your time on the commission. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Thomas Shuffleon. I live at 520 Worthington Ridge. So,
Public.
okay. So I did some research and I found out if the thermal oxidizer, well, I have a question for you guys. If the thermal oxidizer is added, what chemicals are going into the oxidizer and would they be harmful to Berlin citizens? And then also, when the oxidizer is installed, what comes out of the oxidizer? And I found out that it's carbon dioxide and water. And yes, carbon dioxide is bad for us. Exposure to CO2 can cause a range of health effects, including headaches, dizziness, nausea, difficulty breathing, increased heart rate, elevation of blood pressure, confusion, and the worst one, loss of consciousness. Also, in normal outdoor air, CO2 is not dangerous. The average level of CO2 in outdoor air is 400 parts per million. So you're basically making normal and what used to be clean air and making it even worse for Berlin citizens. And who knows if the oxidizer will be installed correctly, because if not, it can pose a significant fire explosion and hazard if not designed properly. So basically, you're just putting the area where Brightfeeds and the local citizens are in a higher risk and what it already is. So pretty much you might as well just do the safest option by just shutting down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Nice job. Hi, I appreciate that. My name is June Daly, and I'm going to write my name down here. I am a Berlin resident at 67 Homecrest, and for clarity or I am on the Planning and Zoning Committee, but I wasn't at the time that this was approved. I am here as a resident only tonight, just letting you know that information. I did hear in the presentation of the applicant that there were maybe several options, but this was plausible. And so I would like maybe a better understanding of what some of the other options were. Was it plausible for the company, plausible for the town, plausible for the timeline? But a better understanding of that. What options did they come from? Was it from DEEP? Was it from personal research? Was it from our town, our community that helped present some ideas for us? So I'd like more information on that. I am agreeing with a lot of the comments being made that it's only a few months during winter, we're not outside. And so I don't know that the smokestack would be of benefit to the community currently. I personally don't like the concept of a smokestack because the problem is still there. It's like a Band-Aid. It makes people think that it's okay now, and it's still being admitted into the air. I don't know if the taller smokestack would minimize the particulates or the sticky things that are being discovered around town and being complained about. That is a concern, as if that will fix it. I would like to know if the smokestack would have any impact on the sound that they're hearing, because that can be very aggressive and intrusive, especially at night when people are trying to sleep. So maybe another alternative would be to pause production, reduce production, do production only during the day, or do some kind of other good neighbor adjustment to reduce the admittance of what we are not sure yet, because we don't have the data, if it is causing any harm to our community. I am a community, I live in the town, I love Berlin, and I think it's all of our jobs to come together and share our concerns and try to help find a solution. But as long as that smell and the particulates being spread around and the sound is not improved, in my opinion, this is a fail for the manufacturer and either needs to go back to the drawing board or relocate. But I feel badly for the members of our community that have the greatest impact on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Staff comments?
I just want to clarify one point. And then I'm not clarifying because the attorney obviously explained it way better, but ZBA has the ability to act upon an application, and that's to approve or deny. They can also continue an application. There was a first comment asking to establish conditions to put on before you approve. Can't do that, but you are able to just withhold the decision and do a further hearing if you would like to, if you don't believe you have enough information to act at this point.
So I don't know if there may be other members of the public that want to comment that are present in person or online. But just going back, I mean, I think that certainly through the commission or through the board rather, there have been certain questions asked by the public that have not been answered yet. So I think we go back through that and see if the applicant has information to provide in response to the questions that were asked. The most obvious thing, I think, maybe where we start, and again, if you want to call for more public comment, certainly do so. But we were told that there was an air consultant that was retained. Is there a report from the air consultant? Is there any information I haven't seen that. I don't believe that was distributed to the board.
No.
And it doesn't appear that that expert is here either, so, but certainly ask for additional, I think he indicated that he was the director of director of operations. So I don't know if you want to call for additional public comment, make sure there's not any more questions.
Yeah, we did. I don't think there was any more comments.
How about, online? You have,
Yeah, that was it. We had one person online.
so if you want to, I guess, have the applicant come back up and respond to some of the questions that have been asked, what the board's inclined to do.
Do you want to rebut any of the questions?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Overall comment, again, if there was a, if, sounds like there may not be a temporary, approval, but if that were, an option, we would be, happy to, again, do something like that. This is not a, this is something that temporary we thought would help and was recommended to us, and the literature seems, pretty unanimous on it. But, and I'll share the model that we have, as well as, offer, any conversations with our consultant as a well-respected, air consultant in the area recommended by DEEP. But ultimately it's, yeah, we're again, would be more than, happy with any, temporary measure should that be an option. So thank you.
I'm inclined to think that might be a good thing to do, only because I mean, if I had to go back and if we had to grant the variance, we don't have enough information to be able to do that, number one. Number two, most importantly, we don't know what the decibel level of the thermal oxidizer is. What kind of,
Yes.
I understand that, but we need to get more information on that.
Nothing to do with our variance, Tony.
Nothing to do with our variance at all?
No, because, the variance is for expanding the actual stack that's there,
The
not,
stack.
not the stack that's gonna be associated with the oxidizer. The oxidizer has a stack. It's part of the oxidizer. That doesn't have anything to do with this. This has to
I
do
guess,
with the
I guess
existing.
what I'm having a trouble understanding is that, I understand the variance, what the variance is for. It's in white, in black and white. That's not a problem, but I guess my point is that
How do we protect the citizens? of
how do we,
Berlin?
how do we protect the health of our citizens? And that's what I'm concerned about. And I'm thinking that, if we table this and get more information as to what the plan is for this variance, will that provide more insight? Or do we just go ahead and deny the variance? And my question is, I've heard comments that this thermal oxidizer creates a lot of noise. I don't know if it's 100% efficient, if it's 98% efficient, what else is going on? I don't have the answers to all that. And in order to judge on this variance, I need to have a little bit more knowledge of the whole process.
Does,
I can't judge on a variance just by.
he doesn't have to come to us for a variance for that thermal oxidizer, right? He just comes,
No.
puts it in,
Right,
and it makes a noise, it doesn't matter.
So I wouldn't say that,
right.
because there are other laws that apply to noise.
Yeah, well, that's another whole,
That's another issue.
Separate.
unavoidable, unenforceable.
Well, there hasn't been a
Laws.
site plan analysis on oxidizer anyway, at this point. So that would still have to come through all
Like I
departments.
said, unenforceable.
Okay, well, I can correct.
Sorry.
I stand corrected, though. I understand. We have a choice to either table or deny this, I guess.
I don't,
New business.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe tabling it is gonna do any good at this point. Just my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think more information about the variance is about the stack and only the stack. The whatever oxidizer has really nothing to do, although I'd love it to have something to do with it because I'd love to have some control over it. Fortunately, we don't. Our commission doesn't. Our commission, stack or no stack,
Well, that's our thing.
correct?
Yes, sir.
We have another comment. You want to come on up? Somebody decided to,
My name is Jenny Calvo. I live at Old Farms Place.
you just sign in? Thank you.
I just have a question about the stack
Mm.
coming down. So can you put the oxidizer with the new stack and still have this new one next to it?
With the operation.
It would, well, are you swearing to that? I mean, I guess that's, because why are we worried about this? Why are we worrying so much about this stack if it's got to definitely come down when the oxidizer comes in? Right?
We don't have to make them come down.
He said it was going to come down. Didn't you say that?
Just for record purposes,
Yeah.
everybody who'd like to speak, please just come to the microphone because you're not going to get picked up if you want to comment on the last comment. Please do come forward again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, do you want to come up and answer that?
Our plan is to take it down because it would be non-operational once the oxidizer's in, because that comes with a new stack.
Lori Budney again, Weathersfield Road in Berlin. Whether it's your plan or not, the bottom line is they could keep it up indefinitely for perpetuity. And we will never know as residents of the town whether it's being used properly or not, whether the thermo oxidizer is being used effectively, efficiently or not. As I've been doing some reading on this oxidizer, it appears that also has a noise factor and that could be considerable unless it's maintained and the fan blades are properly, adjusted and so forth. And so we don't even know what will be operating, if anything will be operating. We just know there's going to be an unsightly tall stack on top of a building that might just be the beginning of many more in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please, a minute.
So it's just one statement. So it was mentioned that if this was pushed for whatever reason and they provided the data, there's one big piece that's missing that I would like to ensure is included, right? So if this case study was done on a generalized plume with generalized CFM being pushed through, cool, right? That's going to give you X data, right? But I think that data needs to correlate to what is exactly coming out of their exhaust. Does that make sense to everybody? So it shouldn't just be, this is a generalized case study for your scenario with this size exhaust stack in your environmental area, your low lying facility, accessing or exhausting X amount. It should actually correlate to the data that's coming out of their exhaust, which we've yet to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just one quick point about if the I'll say non-conforming stack, okay, were to be removed, then you'd have a situation where because the new stack that's attached to the oxidizer would be within the regulatory limits, okay, that means it's going back to compliance. So we would take the position that the variance is abandoned. And I kind of waited to get to that to see where you were, that's advice I would give you at the point that you go to deliberate, if you were inclined to approve, we would put language in the letter of decision with regard to that. So, but I think you're going in the other direction. So, but I just want to mention that for your own understanding for the board. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll make a motion to close the hearing on the application.
Awesome.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Corey. Okay, old business. ZBA 2024-23, 76 Fuller Way, map 10-1, block 83, lot 20B. Jonathan Fife, Smart Feed Tech Incorporated, is requesting a variance to allow an exhaust chimney stack to be increased to an elevation of 85 feet besides their 40-foot tall building when theirs is limited to 55 feet per Berlin zoning regulation 4A10AI, which allows chimneys and necessary mechanical appurtenances to exceed no more than 15 feet of the height of the building. Property is owned by 76 Fuller Way LLC and is located in the GI zone.
Before a motion is made, just a quick statutory reminder. If you would like to, with your motion, please propose collective reasons for the action being proposed. That would be necessary to be in compliance with the statute. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve this application? Do I have a motion to deny the application? I'll make a motion to approve the application. Do I have a second? Is there a second to the motion? So we have a motion to approve the application and there's no second. Do I have a motion to deny the application?
I'll make a motion, we deny it, deny the application. I don't see a hardship on his part. I think that he's had the opportunity to make everything right on this property. I think this is due to this being a business and not everything we're doing is for his personal, for him to run a business. I don't see a personal hardship here. So for that reason, I say I don't see a hardship in this, and I will make a motion, we deny this application.
Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
A motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Corey?
Well, I was persuaded by the testimony or the opinions about the weighing of the perpetuity of the variance until against the short-term nature until Attorney Coppola reminded us that they would effectively be abandoning that variance if they removed the variant or non-conforming stack. But I'm also thinking about precedent for the town as well. And I do generally gravitate toward the short-term nature of the proposed long-term solution and the continued work of the business with the officials in town, which can actually have some impact, like the council, the mayor, and the partners with Deep. So on that basis, I think I favor the denial.
take a roll call.
Yeah, we have a motion to deny and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, now we're voting on, I'll take a roll call, but we're voting on a variance to allow an exhaust chimney stack. That's what we're voting on.
Correct.
Technically,
Okay.
you're,
You have,
technically, you
you
vote.
have a motion to deny that has been seconded. So if you're voting in favor of it, and you're saying aye, voting in favor to deny it, just for clarification,
I is no.
aye is no, the variance.
Okay. Christine?
Aye.
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 The motion is denied. The application is denied.
Due to the failure of the
Okay.
applicant. Due to the failure of the applicant to obtain 4 votes in favor of the variance application, the application is denied. Thank you.
We gotta close out the meeting.
We have the minutes and then the 2025 calendar.
November minutes, anybody have any questions or concerns with the November minutes? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 2024.
I second them.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. And I'll make a motion.
Down.
Calendar for next year.
Looks great.
If Tony decides to go on vacation again, don't tell me.
Are you,
Okay.
are you going?
Or I go on vacation, I won't tell him.
Approved.
I'm looking for a replacement. for-
I'm making a motion to approve. I'm making a motion to approve the dates.
Yeah, he can take over.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Ah.
Scary.